Of course.
Well, everyone, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. Today, my friends, I'm nervous because I actually have one of my all-time favorite podcasters, and she's honestly one of the best known and well-known broadcasters in the UK. So I've got my work cut out for me today. Her name is Fearne Cotton. Now, for those of you that don't know who she is, like I said, she's one of the best known and most popular broadcasters in the UK, and she's most recently known as well for being the founder of the well-known brand called Happy Place. The brand was created from a first book, which was released back in 2017. It was called Happy, which was a Sunday Times bestseller and a silver Nielsen bestseller as well. This was the first in another book series that she created as well. She's also the founder and the host of one of my all-time favorite podcasts called Happy Place. She hosts some of the most incredible names such as Glennon Doyle, Elizabeth Gilbert. You've got Jada Pinkett Smith on there. So many incredible people. You know, Fearne, I can go on and on and on about your incredible achievements, but welcome so much to the Storybox podcast today.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction. And I'm so glad that you like the podcast. That means the world to me. So thank you, Jay.
I have been binge listening to you all the episodes. Honestly, I love it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way you interview people. Maybe it's your voice too. Maybe it's the questions you ask. Who knows? But I'm loving it. And maybe it's the happiness of it too. Like I soak it all up. So thank you so much for creating the show.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure. You know, it's saved me in many ways, and it's been, well, it still is, you know, weekly, so healing, and a privilege to just sit and listen to so many brilliant people. I get to listen to all of these amazing stories and perspectives on life, and I walk away after each episode having always learned something, or at least I'll take away something to think about. So I'm just lucky that I get to do it, and I'll keep doing it for as long as I can.
I feel like, yeah, the feeling's mutual on my end too, because I love doing the same thing, getting to unbox people's stories, which I'm very excited to do with you today, Fearne. I've heard your story a little bit on some of the episodes that you do produce and some of the conversations you've had, such as Jay Shetty as well. But the very first question that I do have for you is a question I normally love asking all my guests at the very start, which is, what does success look like for you?
Success to me, I find it really hard to distill exactly what I think it is, because it does change for me. But I think the further down the line I get, the more I believe it's a feeling of constantly wanting to learn and expand. That's a big part of it. So it's not a finite thing. There's no sort of end goalpost. It's having this willingness to always want to learn and expand, because that's a really positive space to be in, rather than, you know, feeling like, oh, what's the point? I don't want to do this anymore. Or like, yeah, I've smashed it, dead end. You know, success to me is a willingness to keep wanting to learning and improving, knowing that there is no end to that. You can just keep going. And I think it's the moments where I feel really satisfied and really boosted by what I'm doing, but not tipping into overwhelm. When I get into that very adrenaline-based feeling of, right, what's next, doing the next thing, and how am I going to do the next thing, that used to feel like success for me, this real scramble to the elusive top, which doesn't exist. And now it's not. It's a calmer approach to, oh, what could be next, you know, and being curious about it and going off on new tangents. And yeah, I think it's just a willingness to keep learning. That feels like a good space to be in.
Why do you think that your idea of success changes for you over time? Have you always, I guess, thought about success over the course of your life, or has it sort of been more like a recent thing for you?
Oh no, I was thinking of it in the womb. Like I came out ready. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? I was off from the start. And in the UK, I started work very young at the age of 15 in broadcasting. And my idea of success then was vastly different to what it is now. It was very much, how do I get to the top? How can I be as shiny and brilliant at the job as possible and as known as possible? And I didn't see there was any other version of success, because there aren't that many well, there weren't back then in the 90s that many different perspectives on success, whereas we've got a better understanding of it now, I think, to some extent. Anyway, so I had a moment in my life where the illusion broke, and it was quite catastrophic, and it was very painful for me personally, what I was sort of going through. And I've talked about it, or I've talked around it in ways in most of my books on the podcast, that due to lots of stuff that was going on in my life, I just hit a massive wall. And I went into a period of depression and not really making sense of any of it anymore. And a lot of it relating to my career. I just thought, this doesn't make sense anymore. Like, where am I going with this? And what does it mean? And it's actually more painful than it is good. So, I sometimes think if you're not seeing the lessons out there, the universe will go, there you go, deal with that, have a go at that, see what happens. And, it's been sort of 10 years of lots of therapy and healing and learning and listening and all that good stuff, which I'm still on that, again, there's no end to that one. But because of it, I've had to seek out other options as to what success means. So for me, it was quite dramatic. I think for other people with time and age and experience, you just get a better feel for what you like rather than what you're told should be success.
Yeah, I think it's very much this gradual progression over the course of your life. I've noticed that for me, and I'm only 25 at the moment, and even like a few years ago, my version of success is completely different to what it is now. So it's amazing how it evolves over time. But I honestly feel like I've got my understanding of what success is, because it's that continual progression towards that one main goal for me. And that one main goal, I feel like I won't achieve until I die, essentially.
Yeah.
So
because, Jay, okay, so you're much younger. I'm 40. So I sort of came to that conclusion, as I said, early 30s, but it was quite dramatic. But I think, say you went, right, this is my one goal, and that's what I want to achieve, and it's to be the biggest podcaster or whatever it might be. When you get to the number of listeners you wanted to get to, or you get to the ultimate guest you wanted or whatever, then what? Did you stop? Of course not. So it's good to have little markers and goals that you would like to sort of tick off the list, but they can't be the be all and end all for me, certainly. It's got to be the experience and how you navigate challenges. That's something that I'm actually enjoying now. Like, when a problem comes up or something that's really like hit me in the ego, I, rather than go, oh God, what's happening? Now I usually sort of, sometimes I'll laugh if it's not too dramatic. I'll be like, oh, this is so obvious. This is so obvious what I'm meant to do here. Or sometimes I'll feel irritated, angry, whatever. And then I'll just go, right, what's the best way through this? Can't go around it, can't go over it. What's the best way through it? And there'll be more learning there. So I think that's success for me as well, learning to sort of navigate just the craziness of life.
What has your failures taught you about being happy?
Oh my God, everything. And that's the important lesson. We assume that happiness comes from only positive things, or certainly our understanding of happiness comes from only amazing moments. And I've learned everything about happiness so far, way more to learn, because of, extreme moments of lacking it and not being able to see it at all. And again, it's reframed happiness for me, much like success. I think before I did assume that the two would run as a parallel, and that if I'm doing well, I'd feel happy. And I learned that the hard way. That's just not how it works. You can be doing all the things you thought you wanted to do and feel miserable, unfortunately. It doesn't make me a bad person or ungrateful. We've all had those moments where we thought we were going to feel great and we just missed the mark. And it's because we're just 1 degree out from where we should be with the listening and the learning bit and the processing life bit. So I've learned a lot, and I'm still learning, because some days, today you've caught me on a day where I feel really good. I had some challenges this week that I navigated with much better response than I might have 10 years ago. And that always feels really cool. But last week I really struggled, and I felt really crap. And I couldn't see the good bits and the light. So I'm still on that that sort of crazy explorative journey with happiness. And it's why I'm so fascinated in the subject matter and why the podcast is called Happy Place. It's quite loaded because, what is happiness and how do you get it, or can you get it, or should we pursue it? Should we not? There's so many different thoughts around it. And I like that it causes a bit of conversation. But yeah, I'm very much still learning about it now.
I want to come back to speaking more and diving more into happiness in just a moment, because I feel like it is a very fascinating subject matter. But I want to go back a little bit and give my audience a little bit of context around where you actually came from. So you started in the broadcast industry quite early on, 15. How did that come about?
Well, I come from a sort of working class family in the suburbs, very normal, nothing dramatic, bad or good, just, great. Had my lovely parents, my brother, everything was very normal. Very hardworking parents, multiple jobs, always kind of saw that. And I guess imbibed that on a subconscious level. Didn't love school. Didn't feel, I've been really thinking about it a lot because I've just written a new book where I sort of delve into it a little bit. And there was just a sense that there had to be something more than this sort of grey school with a grey sky and a grey car park and everything was grey. And I just thought there has to be more colour and excitement out there. And for me, that just looked like the world of showbiz. That for me was like, I need to be there because that looks fun, colourful and amazing. And I was just a big daydreamer. And then I started going to a local dance and drama school in a church hall. Again, nothing fancy, not one of the big stage schools in London, just a local one. But I loved it and it was my everything. And I just kept looking for doors into the world of showbiz that I know now doesn't exist, but went to millions of auditions, failed at loads of them. And then somehow at the age of 15, got an audition for this. It was a big TV show over here back in the 90s for kids called Disney Club. They had a similar one in the States. And I somehow got the job. And it was everything that I'd wanted it to be. It was the dream come true. It was I felt like I'd been plucked from the grey school in the grey suburbs and put in the telly. And it was amazing. And I was really looked after by amazing kids TV producers who really helped me learn the craft and make mistakes and all those things. And I'm forever grateful for that team. And that's where the hard work then kicked in, staying in the world of showbiz or broadcasting, whatever, I thought it was back then. And that's obviously changed greatly over the years, but that was my induction into this very strange, intense world that I work in.
How long were you doing broadcast before it all sort of came crumbling down?
Oh, years. I mean, this is so recent for me, all of this new stuff. Happy Place, I guess, has been around 4 years now as an existing brand. And it's been a very slow build and we're still really taking our time. There is no rush. We want to get it right. So, yeah, 20 years, I guess, of me doing the TV shows, doing the radio, some of it amazing, some of it didn't feel quite right, some of it really hated. Whereas now it's consistent. I love what I do every single day. And that I feel so grateful for, so grateful.
When everything came crashing down as it happened, did you ever see yourself doing what you're doing today with the podcast?
No, not at all. It's all been a happy accident, which again feels amazing. And also forces me to remember that I have to give space for new stuff to come in. Because I think, I'm a control freak, as many people are out there. And I want to go, well, this is going to happen next. And then I'm going to do that and it will lead to this. And in this circumstance, out of necessity, I literally couldn't do anything. I left a lot of the jobs I was doing. I created space without wanting the space. I didn't want to be in that space, but I couldn't deal with any more in life than I was dealing with. And then it very slowly unfurled. Right, I'm going to start writing down what I've just been through and how I feel. And it feels very scary and vulnerable. And then that turned into a book. And then everything else followed suit. So it's been a slow unraveling. But yeah, it reminds me that I can't keep packing out my life and filling it with stuff. I've got to leave a bit of space here and there where I can, and I learned that lesson the really hard way. But yeah, this is why it's so exciting to me, because it's all so new still. It's all so new. And now I get to combine the two. I can use the stuff I learned from my broadcasting career and put it with all of these experts I'm talking to and amazing people that I'm learning from. And that feels very cool.
You're one of my all-time favorite interviewers, actually. I have learned so much from listening to you and how you interact with all your guests. You're not afraid to get vulnerable with people. You ask some good questions. It's almost like two of you are having just this great conversation amongst each other that I don't feel like there's any prepped questions. I could be wrong there.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
So I make it sound very like, oh, I just thought of this.
It's so cool how that actually happens, because I try my absolute best not to prep questions and just go in as organic as I possibly can, which just inflates my curiosity even more with people. You mentioned something that I am very curious about, which is vulnerability and the ability for one person to actually get vulnerable, especially with another person. Fearne, you and I just met, so it might be a bit difficult to be vulnerable and all that sort of stuff. But I do want to ask you, what has been sort of your most vulnerable moment in your life, whether in your career or the things you're doing today, personal, family life, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a lovely subject to talk about, because none of us like necessarily showing that side of ourselves. But I think I've got quite comfortable with it. Not entirely. There's still things that I feel embarrassed about, ashamed about, all sorts of stuff that every human deals with. But I'm much more comfortable now, say, talking about anxiety and panic attacks than I am presenting something that's purely for entertainment. That feels to me quite uncomfortable and jarring. Whereas now, to talk to lots of people about panic attacks feels quite comfortable. But it's taken a long time to get there. And it's been really incremental, because even maybe 3 years ago now, I was on my friend Elizabeth Day's podcast, How to Fail. And for some reason, out of the blue, in that moment, I thought, I think I'm ready to talk about something I haven't before. And it felt terrifying. And that was the eating disorder that I had during my 20s. And I felt a lot of shame around it still, and embarrassment. And but I thought, I'm just going to do it and go for it. And that felt scary. But I mean, writing the book Happy was terrifying. So I before I'd just been this like, yay, happy person on the radio, and I play music and I interview people. And then it was like, right, okay, do you want to know what happens when I go home and I shut the door? I feel terrible, and I didn't know what the reaction would be. And I know it's not entirely about that, but I still wanted to engage in a conversation that felt like it was inclusive of the audience and not just me pouring my heart out. And we've got there, luckily, and we've got a really nice dialogue going with the audience, but it was really scary at first. But I still feel extremely vulnerable when I have to say to people, I don't understand. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. That for me feels quite tricky still in everyday situations. Like, I don't get it. That I think we've got such a strange skew of that in society, where we're meant to know everything. We're meant to be on top of popular culture, current affairs, just what's going on with Kim Kardashian. It's like, I can't keep up with it all. It's too overwhelming. So I still find that quite difficult. But actually, the thing I find the hardest, this one for me debilitates me at times, and it's saying I need something from someone. Because I'm a real giver. I love to help people. I want to offer my time, my platform, whatever it is. I like doing it. It makes me feel good selfishly. And I know that there's a ripple effect. Like, that to me is very natural. Yeah. Whereas for me to say, Jay, look, I need you to do this for me. Or, you know what? I don't like it when you do that. Is it okay if you don't do that? Oh, I find that excruciating. I couldn't feel more vulnerable if I tried in those moments. So it's not the big stuff, weirdly. It's the little everyday stuff where I'm floored by vulnerability and I freeze. I literally freeze. So rather than say, look, I need a bit of help here, I go, no, it's okay. I'll do all of it. I'll do everything. I'll do what you need me to do and what I need help with. I'll do all of it. And then I end up in resentment, and I end up feeling like crap, and it all unravels from there. So that for me is seriously a vulnerable place to be still at this age. Quite tragic.
I feel the same way. I struggle with that still too.
Yeah.
I'm very much, I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm very much like a perfectionist. So yeah. I just have this innate drive to want to have it look and feel a certain way. And if it doesn't, then I start beating myself up. I'm too afraid to ask people for help and get to that vulnerable stage. But, you know, I remember when I first opened up with a guest, it was Dr. Edith Egger, about being sexually abused as a 60-year-old. That for me was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do on the show. But when I did it, it was like this freeing feeling. And then when I opened up to another guest about my severe panic attack and my eating disorders, like once again, that was freeing too, because then they were able to say, Jay, here are some strategies that I've learned. I'm still learning as I'm going, but here are some management strategies for you to take away. You may be able to use it, you may not. And for the audience that are listening, they could take it away as well. So I'm curious for you, Fearne, with your vulnerability, with everything that you have been able to learn as a result of all the experiences you have been through, for someone that is struggling with anxiety and panic attacks at the moment, what would be some, I guess, management strategies that you can provide for them?
Well, first of all, I think it's brilliant that you're sharing with your audience so authentically, because I think, you know, we're all learning that the more we share and the more we discuss difficult topics, the more help we can provide. So it's fantastic that you're using your platform and your space in that way. With panic attacks, it's something I'm still very much trying to figure out. And so say 2 weeks ago, I had this huge 24 hours of extreme anxiety that I went into panic at night for sure. And I was really nervous about a really big job that I had the next day and wanting it to be perfect. You know, again, this plays into the element of perfectionism. When you strive for something to be perfect and you don't want there to be any errors, you're really setting yourself up for so much pressure and anxiety and all sorts. But I don't know how to get out of that, because also, as well as wanting to do the job well, we now live alongside this toxic cancel culture that exists that leaves no space for people to make mistakes. And there's no good thing about cancel culture. It is not okay. And whether you're in the public eye or not, everyone lives with that. You could be cancelled from your local community or your group of friends or whatever it is for making a mistake. And it's horrible. Yeah. So I panic about that quite a lot. Also because I've been on the receiving end of all sorts of, you know, horrible things written about me and said about me and from strangers or whatever. So that I kind of carry around with me, unfortunately. And I do loads of therapy about it, but it's still there. So I went into this horrible state of very physical panic. My cognitive, my brain and my cognitive thinking knows I'll be all right. And that even if I trip over a word or I say something wrong, I'll get myself out of it. I'll be honest, or I'll apologize, or whatever needs to be done. But my body is not on board with it at all. And I feel floaty. It's almost like I'm not in my body. I'm sort of floating around, very tingly, horrible. Oh, how do I even describe it? It's a sort of weird heaviness, but also it's so hard to explain this feeling I get in my solar plexus. It's all here. And I can't even put my finger on it, but it's so intense. And it's not a pain. It's just, and it feels very exposing and a vulnerable place to be, but it's all here.
It's very uncomfortable, isn't it?
Oh, and I try the breathing exercises. And then if that doesn't work, I get further into it because, oh my God, even that isn't working now. And I panic more. And, so I haven't worked it out fully. The only thing that can sometimes help me, because mine will more often than not come at night. And it's actually stopped me doing certain things like morning radio shows because I won't sleep the night before and I'll get ill. I won't sleep for weeks and I'll get ill. I don't want that. So if I'm having one at night, rather than go, right, what can I do next? I need to do breathing, and then I need to do some like counting things, and I need to do some like memory exercises and take my mind off it. I've actually just started going, go on then, let's just do this. Let's just feel panicked and not resist it and just let it in. And sometimes that will take the heat out of it. Sometimes I'll fall asleep, but there's really no guarantee. It's so dependent on the circumstance. So I don't know how much help I am apart from being honest about it, and hopefully people won't feel alone, which I think also helps dissipate the heat around it. Because you go, okay, it's not just me lying here doing this right now. There's millions of people experiencing this. And I know that's helpful because I've been on the receiving end of it. So the tools and techniques I still dabble with. One really good therapy is EMDR, which is either an eye movement therapy or you can do this bilateral tapping. And I did that more specifically for driving on the motorway, which, wasn't, the panic wasn't a reaction to having had an incident on the motorway. It was just some weird association my brain made with you're out of control. And I can now drive on the motorway, which feels great. But I have many, many other hurdles to tackle with that one. But I can't put too much pressure on myself. It will happen when it happens.
I will be honest with you, Fearne, and I appreciate you sharing that as well, because to be completely transparent and honest with you, I still wrestle with those days as well. Like, I know the feeling you're talking about. It's kind of like this very uncomfortable. My body temperature rises, so I become really, really hot. It's kind of like it's a weird hot flush, and you just can't seem to get rid of it. Your mind is spinning out of control. It's not a fun feeling at all. But like, what's helped me a few times, and maybe it might help you, is having a cold shower. Like, just
really,
because what I've noticed is showers, especially, they ground you, and I find that when I'm in that state of panic, I'm not grounded. I'm completely out of the blue, like in the middle of nowhere, really. Yeah. So I've got to get back to grounding, and a cold shower will lower my blood temperature and essentially help me to be grounded. So if it's really, really out of control for me, I'll go straight to the shower. And I seem to have more in summertime, because summertime here in Australia is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd share that. Maybe it might work, maybe it might not.
That. I'm always up for good sort of physical, practical things you can do, because it is so physical, and you do need to do something to get your body on the same page as your mind. Because I can more often than not calm my mind down, but my body's just doing its own thing. So I think that's going to be really handy. So thank you for that.
No, you're more than welcome. I want to sort of ask you as well, speaking about like loving the body and doing all these sorts of things, what do you love the most about your story and yourself now?
As a British person, it's always really hard to say what you like about yourself. It's kind of been, completely extracted from our culture, the need to celebrate yourself. And I, for one, really want to promote that we should all be doing just that, especially over here where we're terrible at it. We're really self-deprecating. We're really horrible about ourselves, and we think it's kind of stoic or cool or whatever, and it's not. So I really like this question. And I think what I like about my story is that without really overthinking it, I have been willing to pick myself back up and try again and put myself back out there, even when there's still a lot of risk involved and it feels scary. And I'm glad that I've done that, because I could have at one point very easily hid away and stayed safe. And sometimes I do retreat a bit, and I'm quite a hermit and stay at home a lot. But in terms of my career, it felt terrifying to open my mouth in public at one point, because I was so traumatized by stuff I'd been through and judgment around me and who I was. And I'm glad that I did it anyway. And I don't know how. Sometimes I look back at the really painful bits of my life and think, I don't know how I even put myself out there. Like, what was I thinking? But I'm glad that I did. And it's, bits of it have been really tough, but I'm really grateful that I'm still able to do a job that I love, and actually in a completely different way now, which is even better. So I think that's the bit about my own personal story that I like the best.
Do you know what keeps you going today?
I think it's a need for connection with other people. Even though a lot of the time I need to be on my own and I really like solitude, I get such a buzz out of meeting new people and them being part of my story and me being part of theirs. That will never cease to excite me. And luckily I get to meet new people all the time with my job. And that just keeps on going. So I think even though I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, there almost wasn't an option, because it's such a innate part of who I am that I need that human connection and that source of learning. I like learning from other people, and other people's life stories intrigue me massively. So I would probably always have been pulled in this direction one way or another, no matter what my story looked like. So I think that's what still drives all of it today, really, and wanting to do something decent and help people. That's another part of my personality that is fixed. I like being helpful if I can, and not in a way like I'm so amazing, look at me helping everyone. It serves me. I like doing it. I feel good doing it, and I can't not. It's just part of who I am. I did my Enneagram test this year and I came out as number 2. There's 9 different archetypes and I'm number 2, the helper, which was no surprise to me, but it was kind of nice to go, oh yeah, that is who I am. That's cool. I can say that out loud without feeling like someone's going to judge me and go, oh yeah, whatever, martyr, No, it's who I am. I like it.
I, for one, can say you're very humble, very authentic and down to earth, which I really do appreciate. And the fact that you are doing something that is more than decent, by the way. It's incredible. That's from my personal opinion and perspective. I can't wait for the next episode of Happy Place. Like, who's Fearne going to interview next? Who's she going to speak to? I hold out for it. Like, it's honestly amazing.
Thanks.
So thank you so much for continuing to go.
I've got one you're going to love soon. There's one that I recorded yesterday. Oh, it was amazing. That's all I'm saying.
Is it going to come out next week or?
No, it's that next week's one's really good as well. But it's, I think it's in a few weeks' time. It's around someone amazing who's got a new book coming out. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
I know.
I think I know who it is. I won't.
Do you? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No. That is so cool. Okay, I'm going to stop geeking out and ask you another question. Now you've done it, Fearne.
I know. No, it's good. It's a good one.
Well done. I wanted to steer the conversation a little bit towards happiness for just a moment with the time that we do have left. Really do appreciate your time, by the way, today. Why do you think happiness is so elusive for a lot of people today?
Because it's promoted as something that it actually isn't. It's very much promoted, especially in pop culture, that it's a big firework moment. It's winning a reality TV show. It's reaching the top of, the ladder you're trying to climb at work. It's having the perfect love story. It's having the most amazing social life on social media, which is you in a nightclub with sparklers and everyone looks amazing. And we know it's an illusion, but we still subconsciously buy into it. Oh, that's happiness, and then we create this sort of weird future proofing. Oh, when I get that, then I'll be happy. When I look like that, then I'll be happy. When I get that partner, then I'll be happy. When I have that many Instagram followers, then I'm going to feel really happy. When I get that promotion, I'm going to feel so happy. And that isn't it. There's no guarantees with any of that. You could be promoted, but also then end up getting divorced on the same day. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea, and we can't pin it all to exterior circumstance because it's too risky. And happiness, actually, if we really look back into our own memory banks, well, there'll be some big moments. It might be, the birth of your children, your wedding day, or your graduation, or what it might be some of those moments. But it will also be, if you really think back, some really beautiful, simple things. It could be something as simple as there's a walk that you really like doing in the local forest that you live by, or the local park, or if you're lucky enough to live by the sea, or it might be just a really lovely moment of connection that you had with your neighbor or someone on the school run, or there's lots of really small, quiet bits of happiness that we don't talk about. Yeah. And because we don't talk about them, we don't notice them, and we're not looking out for them, and then we miss them altogether. So I really am trying now. Like this morning, my husband did school run because he's off work today, and I've got quite a busy day. And I was in the kitchen, and the sun was rising, and it looked all sort of misty in the garden, and the sun was just filtering through the trees. And there was nothing going on, nothing special, but I felt moved by it. I felt really moved by that moment of just, it all looked beautiful. And there was nothing happening in that moment. And I was in the moment. I wasn't in the future or the past, which I have a huge propensity to sway between the two. And I think that's where we all need to be, not necessarily looking for moments of happiness, but certainly noticing them, like, oh, this feels nice. This feels good. There's nothing major happening. There's nothing. Could be that a stranger smiles at you in the street, or grab all those moments, grab them all. Go for it, and remember that you are part of other people's story in that way. If you want to buy the person behind you in the queue a coffee, gorgeous, what a lovely thing to do. And that's a little moment you can cultivate. So we've got to look for the small stuff, and it's not promoted that we should be doing that. It's promoted we've got to strive for the big stuff, and then we're just falling short constantly, and we feel like, as you say, it's elusive.
Yeah, I feel like happiness is almost now a buzzword that they just use quite so often. It's like you must be happy all the time, but that is honestly impossible. It's just not.
And also, who would want that? Like, that would get annoying for everyone around you. Like, oh my God, mate, can you stop being so jolly? Like, seriously. And also, what are we losing by denying ourselves of all the other emotions? Like, I know when I'm angry, which I can easily leap to, I have such fire in my belly. If I use it well, if I get clear with that anger, oh my God, watch me get shit done. I will get so much done. I don't want to lose anger. I don't want to lose sadness. Sometimes I feel happy when I'm sad because I'm crying and it feels like a release and it's quite beautiful. And, we've got to find the worth in all of it and just learn how to use it and how to challenge it, or learn how to sit in it sometimes, which is horrible and hard, but also essential. And I'm still haven't nailed that one, but I know it's important. So yeah, it's not about being happy all the time. It's about noticing when happiness is floating by and not missing it.
Yeah, I made the choice the other week actually to watch a movie, and I hadn't had a good cry in forever. And I wasn't expecting to cry in this movie, but it was a dog movie, and I'm a huge sucker for dog movies. Big mistake, Fearne. Oh, it wasn't a really big mistake. But anyway, I just started bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, what's going on? What is going on? Why do I feel so weird but happy at the same time? It was like, and then, my mum came in and she's like, why are you crying? I'm like, this damn movie's so damn sad, but yet at the same time it's making me happy. And she's like, oh, do you need a hug? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Crying is really lovely. And it's only when we stop those tears flowing that I think we get into problems, because we're just suppressing it. Having a cry is really natural and a brilliant release. And we shouldn't think of it as being self-indulgent or weak or any of those awful other things that get attached to sadness and crying. It's gorgeous to have a cry. Cry more, I say.
Where's your happy place at the moment, Fearne?
I mean, it's always at home, really. I'm quite a simple person. The fact that I just like being at home, and I feel very lucky that that is the fact that, I feel very safe at home. I feel very comfortable. I like being in my kitchen. I like pottering about. I never get bored. I don't think I've ever been bored in my entire life. I've always got jobs that I want to do, things that I want to try, cupboards I want to clear out. I just like being at home. And also, actually, I may add, by the sea. I do love being by the sea. We have some amazing beaches in the UK that are completely underrated and just divine. And being anywhere near the sea and just watching it, even on a crappy day when it's like really roaring and it's grey, there's just something about it that just brings me back to earth and back in my body. And yeah, I love the sea.
I love going for runs along the beach. Those are like some of my favorite times. Although I haven't been able to get out there.
Beach?
Sorry?
Are you right by the beach?
No, unfortunately, I'm not. I'm about 50 to 60-minute drive away from the nearest beach. But when I do get out there, I appreciate it immensely. Like, because I know it's like they come few and far between. So I'm going to value it as much as I possibly can. So I'll make a day of it anyway. But Fearne, what are some things that you are curious at the moment about regarding happiness?
I think it's for all of us. This is not me directing advice because, as I said, I'm very much on this learning curve with everyone. It's giving us all permission to know that we have the agency to feel happy. Yeah. We often think happiness is only directly related to circumstance. And that's a huge myth that we need to break. And I'm not being flippant or disregarding very painful moments in life that are out of our control, like losing someone, losing your job, physical ailments that you're experiencing. I'm not detracting from those tough moments in life, but I'm saying we can choose happiness much more than we think we can. And that, again, has been perhaps something we're slightly indoctrinated with, that, again, we will only feel happy when or if. And it's all exterior stuff. And what I'm learning from some very wise people at the moment, some amazing shamans I've talked to and thought leaders, that we've got much more agency over the happiness that we cultivate within. And that might be down to perspective and perception of life. It might be down to feeling, to seeking out an inner peace or self-acceptance, self-love, all words that we hear a lot, but we rarely understand fully. Yeah. I think self-love is a big part of it. And that's something that I have to really work on, because I can easily go into self-loathing. I probably do once a week. At some point in my week, I will sink into self-loathing and beat myself up and call myself an idiot and all sorts of horrible stuff. So I know that if I'm in that mindset, I'm not going to feel happy if even, something, Brad Pitt walks in the door. Nothing's going to make me feel good. Nothing, because I'm in self-loathing. Whereas if you like yourself or accept yourself, there's so much more room for you to choose happiness in a moment, and to maybe even like laugh at stuff that is annoying, challenging, not earth-shattering, but like, oh God, this again, right, here we go. I think it's looking around the agency of happiness really piques my curiosity, because we're not tapping into that anywhere near enough. And we're even doing it with social media. We're waiting for other people to tell us we're okay. Yeah. We put a picture up and we hope that if all the comments are positive, if it gets really liked, then we go, oh, I am okay. Oh, that did look good. Oh, that was a good moment. We keep handing over our happiness to everybody else. So we've got to bring it back in and go, doesn't matter what anyone says about me or my life. I know that in this moment, I feel good, or I feel like this is right, or I feel happy. We've got to stop handing our happiness over to other people and our self-worth. So I think I'm deeply curious about that.
Yeah, I think I'm curious about a similar area. Like you mentioned the divide before that is happening because of partly social media and a lot of things going on in society today, which is unfortunate. But you're right, all of us do have a choice whether or not we want to choose happiness or choose not to be happy, which is ultimately still okay as well. But I think it's trying to find that balance, if that is such a thing. Like I'm still learning this whole thing myself, which kind of leads me to my second last question, Fearne, if that's okay. This idea between happiness versus joy, what's the difference that you've noticed, and is one more important than the other, you think?
I think they're both equally as important, because when we're hopefully old men and women and sat there looking back over our lives, it's going to be the moments where we really lent into joy and happiness that we'll be remembering and celebrating and grateful for. It's not going to be the moments that we pushed ourselves super hard or stuck with something even when we knew it wasn't working. We won't be grateful of those moments or celebrating them. We'll have probably regret.
Yeah.
So we all need to lean into happiness and joy more, but it's really scary because sometimes simultaneously you start worrying about when it's going to end. Like, oh my God, I feel so amazing right now, but oh shit, when's it going to end? It's going to end probably quite soon, and I don't know what to do about that. It's a horrible feeling. I think when it comes to the distinction between the two, maybe it's up for discussion and maybe it's subjective. I don't know. My own take on it would be that happiness is something that we perhaps have the choice with. And again, I know that that's triggering for some people to hear. It would have been really triggering for me 10 years ago. I would have thought, I cannot be happy right now. How can you say this to me? There's no way I could be happy. Look at my life. I'm not happy. But I'm learning now that even when there are super challenging things happening and there's stuff I'm seeing around me that I don't like, I can still find little moments of happiness within it, dotted about. It's hard, but I can. So I think we've got a bit more choice, and that's maybe about perception and perspective. Whereas joy, I think, probably is more fleeting and something that we're more accepting of in terms of it being ephemeral. We're like, oh, that was such a joyful dinner and it was wonderful, but now I'm back home and I'm going to bed. And, you compartmentalize it. That was a joyful moment, and we package it as that was joy. And that's really lovely. I think we're probably better at joy than we are happiness.
Yeah.
Because happiness, we could potentially lean into a couple of times a day with small things that we might not choose to, or it might feel impossible. I know those feelings. But with joy, we're quite good at going, that was a great Christmas day. It was joyful. I'll always remember that joy. Or that was, what joyful night out at the theatre. Or, we're quite good at going, that was joy and I'm happy with that, and I'll keep that as a memory there. Whereas happiness, we struggle with so much more. That's my take on it. Others might disagree. Maybe that's just how I see it. I'm pretty good at recalling joyful memories and I appreciate them at the time. But yeah, there's been big chunks where happiness has just literally been, completely lacking. So it's interesting dissecting them, really interesting.
It is. And for someone that has experienced a lot more of the world than I have, and has had moments of joy and moments of happiness as well, and you've spoken to a lot of high profile people and just some regular people about this particular topic, and to begin with, I find it interesting for me to learn and to look at it and try and apply what I can try and apply from learning from you to my own life about joy and happiness. For me, I've learned joy from my two German shepherds. The first one was named Joy, and the second one is named Alita Joy, because every time I looked at them or every time they're in my presence, they would bring that sense of joy. And I've got like a dog tag on one of my Back to the Future posters, which says, never enough joy. And that was like this beautiful reminder for me that if I want joy to be in my life, it will be there. And whenever I have a memory of my dog, joy will flood my soul and my mind and my whole spirit. So I'll feel that sense of it. And then not long after, I'll feel that, I guess, calming, peaceful sense of happiness that often comes too. So I think it's an amazing thing. It really is.
It's so cool. And you're so right. You know, often pets and kids teach us joy because they both live in the moment. So they're grabbing at joy whenever they can. You know, my kids are looking for joy constantly. Like, can I have that lolly? Can I have that sweet? Can we go to the toy shop? They're looking for the next moment of joy and they're really leaning into it fully. They're not worrying when it's going to end. They are leaping into it and it's a beautiful thing. Or, you know, when they see a puddle and jump into it, or they run into the sea, or they're swinging from a tree, it's joy. And yeah, we're actually, maybe I'm going to contradict what I've just said, but maybe we're not so good at joy because we're not good at like wild abandon when it comes to joy. Like, you know, kids will literally go, oh my God, that tree is the perfect tree to climb, and they're climbing up it and it's amazing. Whereas we're like, oh, I can't be able to climb that tree. That looks like it's going to take a bit of effort. I can't bother. Do you know what I mean? Like we sort of cancel out the wild abandon bit and abandon. And it's that, or like kicking leaves. Like, oh my God, look at all these red leaves. I'm going to kick them everywhere and it's going to be so fun. Whereas I'm like, I've got to get a leaf blower out and bloody get rid of all these leaves. You know, like we forget that there can be moments of just pure silliness for no reason. Yeah, I've totally changed my mind on joy after you saying that. Wow. Okay. I don't know what. I don't have a clue.
Who was that person that said I'm probably going to butcher the saying, but we grow old because we stop playing or something like that? I think it's.
I don't know, but I like it.
Yeah, I love it too, because it just reminds me once again that even the age that you are, you can still have fun in the present moment. But oftentimes it's because of the busyness of life that we do get into, we kind of forget it. I think you hit the nail on the head right there, because kids, they're always in the present moment. They got no cares in the world. And if I had my time again, I want to go back to being a kid. I had such a fun time.
It's so good. It was so much easier than being an adult. Being an adult is so hard.
It really is.
Hard.
It really is.
I remember as a kid, I thought, I can't wait to be an adult. I'll do exactly what I want. No one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to wear what I want. I'm going to decorate my own place I want. I'm going to eat what I want when I want. And then you become an adult and you go, oh my God, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This has been sold to me badly. This is not how I thought it was going to be.
The marketing was terrific, wasn't it?
Oh, the marketing was fantastic. It looked great, and it's not as it panned out to be.
Yeah. Fearne, I really, really enjoy this conversation. My final question for you is my all-time favorite question I ask everyone at the end of all my conversations. It's a hypothetical one, but I want you to imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends and your family have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll just call it magic for the sake of argument. But they've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
I've got an amazing image of me at that age. I've got quite a lot of lipstick on my teeth and I'm wearing excessive amounts of jewelry, and I probably have a ridiculous hair color. I'm kind of like a witch at this age, right? That's where I'm headed on, and I'm very, very happy about it. And I think it's that I would like to feel like I've made other people's lives better, even in tiny ways. Friends, family members, strangers, that my interaction with them was beneficial and not the opposite. I would hate to get to that age and for me to have caused people a lot of harm. And obviously I have. We've all made mistakes. We've all hurt people, even when we hadn't meant to. And I know that's a given. But I hope at that age, the majority of my life will have been me trying to make other people feel less alone, and I guess to feel a sense of peace that it's okay, whatever's going on in your life, you know, that it's fine and it's normal and it's okay. That's what I'd like the memories to sort of be based around, I guess. That I, like I said before, we've done decent things, nice things, helpful things. And it doesn't have to be big firework, explosive, huge things, but just little things that have made other people's life a bit better, even if it was for a couple of minutes. And I don't think I'll change my mind on that. I think I'll always want to sort of strive to do that. Might miss the mark on occasion, fine. But overall, I hope that's the feeling that I leave.
It's a beautiful send-off message. Fearne, I could speak to you forever, but I have to let you go. Thank you so much for your time today and for joining me on the Storybox podcast. You're an absolute blessing.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been so lovely to talk to you, and good luck with all the brilliant work that you're doing. And I hope to see you soon.